Welcome to Tomorrow Unveiled, your shortcut to being well informed about the future shaping our world. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that, well, it truly touches us all: the quest for longer, healthier lives. For, gosh, far too long, discussions about longevity have been kind of stuck, haven't they? Somewhere between science fiction and just a vague hope for maybe a few more years. But this week, the research team that compiled this information has brought us some really groundbreaking updates, things that show a decisive shift. We're moving, it seems, beyond simply prolonging survival, just adding years, to actively restoring youthful function and truly extending our health span, that really crucial period of life lived in good health, free from chronic disease. We've got a fascinating stack of sources to unpack for you today, revealing not just surprising facts, but tangible, almost unbelievable progress.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here, I think, is the convergence. You've got multiple really powerful advancements all happening sort of at the same time. The mission for this deep dive on Tomorrow Unveiled is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge for you, helping you understand just how close we might be to a future where aging isn't merely slowed down, but actively managed, maybe even reversed in some ways.
Okay, so let's jump right into what's perhaps the most, well, jaw-dropping news this week: direct evidence of systemic biological age reversal. I mean, imagine if we could actually turn back the clock on aging. For decades, that was pure science fiction, right? But now we're seeing direct evidence, not just theory, but in actual living organisms.
That's exactly right. One of the most significant developments is the publication of clinical trial results demonstrating systemic biological age reversal in primates. Our dedicated research team notes a 44-week trial in aged macaques. They use these specialized senescence-resistant mesenchymal progenitor cells, or SRCs. You can think of them as kind of superpowered stem cells. They don't just resist aging themselves. They seem to actively go in and rejuvenate the surrounding tissues. And they've built a biological age reduction averaging 3.34 years across, get this, 54% of their tissues.
Wow, 3.34 years younger, biologically, across more than half their body. That sounds, well, it sounds almost unbelievable. What's the most surprising implication of that finding, though, beyond just the numbers for these macaques? Like, how did it actually impact their quality of life?
Right, and that's the crucial question, isn't it? Because it's not just about the numbers, it's about function. Are they living better? And the findings showed, yes, significantly improved cognitive performance, preserved brain structure, enhanced bone density, even improved reproductive health. The biggest surprise for me might be the sheer scope of it. Seeing such widespread reversal, even in things like bone density and reproductive health, it suggests a truly systemic impact. It's not just hitting the brakes on aging, it's like it's actively unwinding it in multiple biological systems at once. And crucially, no reported adverse effects or concerns about tumors or anything like that. This really represents the first comprehensive functional life extension intervention in primates. That makes it incredibly robust data for thinking about potential human application. It definitely hints at a future where we could potentially regain years of healthy function, not just tack on more frail ones.
Okay, and speaking of unexpected avenues, this next finding genuinely surprised me. It involves a compound known for very different effects: psilocybin, the active stuff in psychedelic mushrooms.
Indeed. It's pretty startling stuff. The research team highlights studies revealing psilocybin extends cellular lifespan by an astonishing 29% to 57% in human fibroblasts in a dish. And maybe even more striking, improves survival rates in aged mice by 50% to 80%.
50 to 80%.
In mice. Yeah. Huge numbers. The mechanism seems to involve enhancing SIRT1 expression. Think of SIRT1 as a kind of master regulator for cell health. Also improve DNA repair mechanisms, preserve telomere length, those protective caps on our chromosomes, and reduced oxidative stress. Basically, psilocybin seems to be fine-tuning these really fundamental processes, sort of fortifying our cells against the wear and tear of time. The mice even showed regrown fur and fewer gray hairs.
Regrown fur? Seriously?
Seriously. Which suggests systemic anti-aging effects, beyond just the brain, which is where you might expect a psychedelic compound to act. Now, it's very early-stage research, of course, but it certainly opens a, quote, new frontier into how serotonin pathways might influence systemic aging. Quite unexpected.
Right. From these really cutting-edge, maybe even slightly out there therapies, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something that's had a longer, maybe more validated journey in longevity research: rapamycin. This has been a buzzword in longevity circles for a while now, and it sounds like this week brought some major confirmation.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, a landmark 20-year review came out. It's from a national interventions testing program. And it basically cemented rapamycin as the most effective and robust compound they've tested to date for extending lifespan, in mice anyway. This review, published just this week, analyzes dozens of potential anti-aging compounds, and it confirms rapamycin extended the lifespan of mice by up to 28%. And what's really interesting is that it worked even when the treatment began in middle or late life. It wasn't just for young mice.
So it's not too late, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Rapamycin works by inhibiting what's called the MTAR pathway. You could think of this pathway like a master switch in our cells. It decides whether the cell should focus on growth and building or on maintenance and repair. By kind of gently tapping the brakes on that growth signal, rapamycin nudges our cells towards a state of constant upkeep and cleanup, which seems to be incredibly beneficial for longevity.
And we're starting to see real-world results in humans with rapamycin too, correct? It's not just mouse studies anymore.
Exactly. We're moving cautiously into human trials. Preliminary results from a one-year human clinical trial, it's called the POL trial, were reported. This was low-dose rapamycin in healthy older adults. Our dedicated research team found modest but still notable functional improvements. For example, women in the trial showed over 5% gains in lean muscle mass.
That's significant for older adults.
It really is.
Yeah.
And they also reported significant reductions in age-related pain. Importantly, it was generally well tolerated. Some mild GI upset, but no major adverse effects reported in this preliminary data, so it adds to this growing body of clinical evidence that maybe rapamycin can be used safely in humans at low doses and might actually improve aspects of healthspan.
Okay, moving on. Gene therapy. This has long felt like pure sci-fi, but recent breakthroughs are making it seem very real. What's happening with Clotho, for instance? What is Clotho and what does boosting it mean for us?
Right. Clotho is often called an anti-aging protein. Our bodies naturally produce less of it as we get older. So our research team highlights a study demonstrating that a one-time gene therapy designed to boost levels of Clotho extended lifespan by 15–20% in aging mice.
A one-time shot.
A one-time gene therapy, yeah. And the treated animals showed significant functional improvements too. Things like greater muscle strength, enhanced cognitive performance, better bone density. The bone improvement was actually particularly pronounced in the female mice, which might suggest a potential protective effect against osteoporosis down the line. This indicates a pretty clear path toward human translation patents are already being filed based on this kind of work. It's a really powerful demonstration of trying to directly address the root causes of aging at the genetic level.
And what about new techniques for precise gene repair, but like directly in the brain? That seems huge for neurological conditions.
Yeah, this definitely raises an important question for neurodegenerative diseases. It's a big leap. Scientists successfully used a technique called prime editing. Think of it like a very precise genetic word processor. They used it to correct disease-causing mutations directly in the brains of living mice with just a single injection. This technique can precisely correct single DNA letters, just one typo in the genetic code, without damaging the surrounding genome. And by doing that, they restored normal protein function. The mice showed improved motor skills, fewer seizure-like episodes, and lived longer. This is particularly huge for neurological conditions because prime editing offers a potential way to fix those single genetic errors, what scientists call monogenic mutations. These are the root cause of many devastating inherited brain diseases, like some forms of Parkinson's or Huntington's. Prime editing could potentially fix the problem right where it lies, in the brain cells. It's a very powerful proof of concept.
The pace of all this discovery is clearly accelerating. It really feels like it. And it sounds like advanced technology, particularly AI, is a huge part of that acceleration. What's AI doing specifically for longevity science?
Well, what's fascinating here is how AI is rapidly becoming an indispensable tool. It's acting like a really powerful diagnostic engine. Our dedicated research team found a new large language model, an LLM framework, similar tech to things like ChatGPT. But this one is capable of predicting both your overall biological age and the biological age of specific organs.
Organ-specific age.
Yeah, like how old is your liver, biologically speaking, versus your kidneys or your heart. And it can do this using only data from standard health examination reports, stuff you might already get at a checkup. This model significantly outperforms the existing aging clocks we've had. And it's highly scalable, which means it could become a really cost-effective tool for widespread use, maybe even in managing population health. Imagine the implications for personalized medicine.
That really does sound like something that could fundamentally change how we approach our annual checkups, giving us much more personalized insights than just, cholesterol numbers. Are we also seeing wearables play a bigger role, moving beyond just step counting?
Oh, absolutely. The research team highlights a really strong trend here. It's where traditional biomarker testing like blood tests is merging with data from wearable devices for continuous health tracking. Imagine doing at-home tests for, say, over 100 blood biomarkers, and then integrating that data seamlessly with info from your smart ring or your continuous glucose monitor.
Okay.
This gives you what some are calling a personal health OS, like an operating system for your health. It could provide proactive feedback on how your diet changes yesterday, or that workout this morning immediately influences markers of aging and disease risk. It gives you unprecedented real-time insight into your health span indicators. It's really about empowering you with data to make better choices day to day.
And for predicting really serious conditions like Alzheimer's, are we making strides there that could allow for much, much earlier intervention? I mean, so much fear is tied to that diagnosis. This could truly change lives if we could see it coming earlier.
Yes, and if we connect this to the bigger picture of brain health, this is potentially huge. Researchers have found something they call an Alzheimer's resilient connectome, or ARC. They identified it using functional MRI scans. You can think of it like a unique, healthy wiring diagram in the brain, a specific pattern of connections. This pattern seems to distinguish individuals who are protected from Alzheimer's, even into very old age, these so-called superagers, from those who eventually develop the disease.
A protective wiring pattern.
Exactly. This unique brain connectivity signature can distinguish superagers from Alzheimer's patients with really high accuracy. But crucially, it can also stratify cognitively normal individuals, people with no symptoms yet, into superager-like and AD-like subgroups. This could potentially predict cognitive decline and disease risk years, maybe even decades, before symptoms appear. It's a non-invasive way to identify potential vulnerability much, much earlier, opening the door for targeted prevention strategies. And yeah, imagine being able to implement perhaps simple lifestyle changes or maybe early interventions when you're, say, 40 or 50 to potentially avoid symptoms when you're 60 or 70. It's really about empowering people with knowledge early on, not just delivering bad news later.
This is fascinating stuff. If you're finding this insightful, please do take a moment to like this video. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to Tomorrow Unveiled, and definitely turn on notifications so you never miss an update on the future. And if you're listening on a podcast service like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we'd be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating and review for Tomorrow Unveiled. It genuinely helps us reach new listeners.
Okay, so this all sounds incredibly promising. I mean, truly powerful technologies and interventions are emerging, but you have to ask, with such advancements, there must be significant ethical and practical questions to consider, right? We're kind of stepping into uncharted territory here.
Absolutely. And this raises that really important question. How do we ensure these interventions actually do more good than harm? Our research team noted that for some of the newer therapies, like senolytics, those are drugs designed to clear out senescent or zombie cells.
Right, the ones that hang around causing inflammation. Exactly. But there are concerns about potential off-target effects. And also, what are the long-term consequences of chronically clearing out cells that might also play some beneficial roles, perhaps in wound healing or tumor suppression? So regulators are naturally going to require a very, very high bar for safety, especially for interventions aimed at people who are otherwise healthy. The field's still quite young.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about access and equity? Could these advancements inadvertently create a kind of longevity divide, where only certain segments of the population can afford to benefit? That's a concern I hear quite often.
It's a critical concern, and one that our dedicated research team definitely emphasizes. These novel, often patented therapies are likely to be expensive, at least initially, and that raises the very real risk that healthspan extension could become a luxury good, potentially deepening existing health disparities. So there's a strong push within the research community and among ethicists for transparency, for making sure clinical trials are inclusive, including women and minorities who have often been underrepresented, and also discussions about potential public funding or other mechanisms to try and ensure broad access down the line. The goal is to prevent a society where, the affluent get to enjoy extra decades of healthy life while others don't. That's a future nobody really wants.
And thinking about the definition of success for these interventions, it's not just about living longer, is it? It has to be about the quality of those extra years. I mean, after all, nobody just wants more years if those years are filled with sickness and decline.
Precisely. And what's fascinating here is across almost all the research we looked at is the consistent emphasis on functional outcomes. Things like muscle mass, cognitive function, disease-free years, rather than just raw lifespan extension.
Yeah.
The goal is often framed as compressing morbidity.
Compressing morbidity.
Yeah, it means delaying the onset of chronic diseases so that the period of ill health at the end of life is squeezed into a shorter time frame. Ideally, one's final years would be relatively short and perhaps sudden, following a long, healthy, functional life. It's profoundly about achieving a better quality of life in those later years, making sure any added years are truly years worth living.
Okay, and one last practical point. The regulatory landscape. Is aging even officially recognized as a treatable condition by major bodies like the FDA? That seems like a pretty fundamental hurdle if you want to bring general anti-aging therapies to market.
Yeah, that's a key challenge. Currently, aging itself is not recognized as a disease or a treatable condition by regulatory bodies like the FDA. This makes it very difficult to get approval for a drug with a general anti-aging claim. So companies often have to pursue approval by targeting a specific age-related disease like osteoporosis or muscle loss or cognitive decline,
Yeah.
using that as a proxy endpoint, which is, a slower, more fragmented path to market than if you could just target aging itself. It's a significant strategic challenge for the entire field, requiring some creative approaches to how drugs are developed and how clinical trials are designed.
And before we wrap up the challenges, tell us about how our furry friends are helping pave the way here. It sounds like dogs, canine companions, are playing an unexpectedly crucial role in this research, almost acting as a bridge to human trials.
It's quite unique, Ashley, and really interesting. The research team highlights these large-scale dog aging trials, like one run by a company called Loyal, their LOY-002 trial, which has enrolled over 1,000 senior dogs.
1,000 dogs.
Yeah. The thing is, dogs share our environment, they eat similar processed foods sometimes, and they develop many of the same age-related diseases we do, arthritis, cancer, dementia, but in a much accelerated timeline, right?
Mm.
They live maybe 10, 15 years typically. This creates this really valuable pets-to-people pipeline. We can test interventions in dogs relatively quickly. It could potentially shave years off human drug development timelines. And maybe just as importantly, it could help set crucial regulatory precedents for getting anti-aging medicines approved. It's truly a first-of-its-kind effort, aiming for an FDA-approved drug to extend healthy lifespan, starting with dogs, and that could offer insights much faster than human trials alone ever could.
What an absolutely incredible deep dive into the Immortality update this week on Tomorrow Unveiled. It's so clear that longevity science isn't just, abstract theory anymore. It's rapidly maturing. It feels like we're really moving towards a future where we can proactively manage aging itself.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, looking forward, the future of longevity medicine seems likely to be defined by this tight integration. Integration between precision diagnostics like those AI tools we talked about and targeted therapeutics. Imagine a really personalized diagnose and treat model. Your AI age assessment identifies specific areas of aging, and that guides tailored combination therapies. Perhaps you get a senolytic drug first to clear out damaged cells, followed by maybe a regenerative therapy to help restore youthful function in a specific tissue. The field will almost inevitably move toward combining different interventions for synergistic effects, maybe like a sequential clear and then restore approach, all customized to your unique biological signature.
So the ultimate goal then isn't just reversal, but actually prevention, identifying issues decades before they even become problems we notice.
Exactly. That's the real holy grail here. The new generation of diagnostic platforms, the AI, the wearables, the advanced imaging, they hold the promise of enabling us to identify individuals at risk decades before symptoms might appear. And that creates these incredible opportunities for early, maybe low-dose, preventative interventions. Things designed simply to maintain high physiological function throughout life, rather than trying to fix major problems later on. Honestly, the biggest bottleneck in the near future probably won't be finding new interventions. We have quite a few promising candidates already. It will likely be developing robust, personalized biomarkers to actually guide when and how to use them effectively for each person. Because without those precise diagnostics, prescribing these powerful interventions is a bit like flying blind.
Okay, this brings us to our provocative thought for you, our listeners, to consider. If we can truly extend healthy, functional life, maybe by decades, what does that really mean for how we define things like work, retirement, education, family structures, our whole place in society? Are we actually ready, culturally and socially, to redefine what it means to grow old? It's not just about living longer, it fundamentally changes the shape of a human life, doesn't it? It's about living differently. We always love hearing your thoughts on these big questions. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast app, please leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the Immortality update and what these breakthroughs might mean for our collective future. Thank you so much for joining us on Tomorrow Unveiled. We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the future.